Hey, we're here at the backstage, I guess. I don't know how you call this, but at a mock gun show here at the behind the scenes for, I think it's called 600 Miles. It's a movie that they're making, kind of not about Fast and the Furious and
gun trafficking for sure.
Gun trafficking, yeah.
With a twist.
And we're here talking to Mike Detty, who obviously is known for
Guns
most recently the book, but the story behind that.
Right. Operation Wide Receiver was an investigation I brought to ATF's attention and worked on for about 3 years, as well as 2 other major cases. And it all involved guns being trafficked to Mexico. And the promise that I would be helping and taking out a powerful drug cartel. That's what I was originally enlisted to help them with.
I think it's, I read the book, and it was one of those books that you can't even put down, especially being a gun show person from Tucson. It was neat to try to figure out what shows you were talking about or alluding to and the dealers you were talking about. But I also thought it was interesting that I never thought about it, but as a confidential informant, most of the time those are criminals that they're somehow got their thumb on. And
that
you were the total different to that, so it was almost like they didn't know what to do, and you kind of suffered the...
Well, I did suffer, but it also kept me safe. In most circumstances, confidential informants are people that have a prison sentence or charges looming over them. And that gives the feds or the local police, whoever they're working with, that gives them a great deal of leverage in getting that person to do things they wouldn't normally do. My case was different in that I was just trying to be a patriotic guy and bring something I saw that was wrong to the federal agent's attention. So when things got bad for me, when after Brian Terry was killed and both the ATF and DOJ were coming out and saying they had never trafficked guns across the border, there wasn't much they could do to shut me up. They had no leverage over me. I became an informant for all the right reasons. And much to their detriment, there was nothing they could do to shut me up. There was intimidation on their part. There was some harassment. They got into my computer and corrupted some audio files and conducted an audit where they had lost some serial numbers and then told me I'd probably face criminal charges. Things like that. But the documentation that I kept during the 3 years that I worked as an informant is, in the end, what saved me. It is also what ran me afoul of ATF was the fact that I had double sets of records on everything I did for them. And pretty much that documented their first attempt at gun walking, which was Operation Wide Receiver. 2 years later, Fast and Furious developed from that case.
And we hear about Fast and Furious all the time, but it's really Project Gunwalker that gave them the idea that they, unfortunately, that they could run with it, I guess.
Right. Operation Wide Receiver began in 2006, and people ask what the difference between Fast and Furious is, and there's a lot of commonality, but the biggest one is that it started with the special agent in charge of the Phoenix office, and that was William Newell. And he's a person who is basically a mid-level manager that was able to devote millions of dollars of resources and thousands of hours of manpower towards letting these guns walk across the border. And some of the common myths you read about or hear about in the media are that, under President Bush in 2006, Operation Wide Receiver, he did it right. He had tracking devices on the guns, and they were working with the Mexican authorities. And none of that's true.
Yeah, you cover that in the book.
There was no ongoing coordination or cooperation with the Mexican authorities. And there was one attempt to put a tracking device in a gun, and it failed. It was never fielded. We never used it in the investigation. That's been reported erroneously. I even saw it reported at the congressional hearings, and it's just not true. But the thing we had in common between Wide Receiver and Fast and Furious was a special agent in charge, again, Bill Newell. And he's a person who continues to be employed by ATF, is still a special agent, and still draws a paycheck and is working towards his pension and so forth. And it's absolute criminal, but what you have to keep in mind, he's also the person who knows exactly what President Obama is hiding behind executive privilege.
Now, Something that I thought was interesting as far as the confidential informant, you said that, again, you were in a different circumstance than normal. I questioned because you didn't mention it in the book. I don't know if you know. Did they change their policies? Do they have policies in place now for non-criminal confidential informants? Did you break any ground there, do you think?
I don't think so. I think that regardless of if you're a good guy or a bad guy, if you have charges looming or not, that ATF style always has been. I mean, that's their history is to kind of rule through intimidation, and it's endemic in that organization. I mean, even as far as supervisors are concerned and everything, they have a long, filthy history of just intimidating people that don't go along with the status quo or go against something that's wrong, trying to stand out and do the right thing. John Dotson is a perfect example. He was a whistleblower on Fast and Furious, and while he's been able to remain an ATF agent, he's been ostracized by his fellow agents. He's treated with contempt. He goes to work every day and walks into rooms full of people who all turn their backs on him. I mean, it's a terrible thing for a person to have to go through for doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And of all the people that were involved in that Phoenix fiasco, Fast and Furious, he's the only one with the balls to come out and say, yeah, we did it, it was wrong, we shouldn't have done it, and I'm sorry for the Terry family.
Well, thanks for your time here, and I'm not sure when they're going to get us to start doing stuff, but I can definitely encourage people to get a copy of the book. You can get it on audio, you can get it on
audio and ebook formats.
Yeah.
Amazon and Barnes & Noble both have it, and I think Books A Million also.
Yeah. Thanks again, Mike.
Thank you.
So, Mike, one of the things I was curious about, I mean, I know you covered it a lot in the book, but what kind of guns do the cartels prefer?
What they bought from me, primarily, they bought a lot of AR-15s on the cheaper end, Olympic Arms blinkers, and...
so it was quantity and cost over quality?
Yes. 16-inch barrel lengths were preferred. They also bought a lot of the Romanian Wasser AK-47s, the semi-auto variants, because they were cheap at that time.
And what years were these with the Wassers?
This was between 2006 and 2010.
Okay, so this is definitely post-ban when the Wassers were coming in with the single stacks and the double stacks and were super plentiful?
Yeah, and they were paying about $3.99 a piece for them back then. And then the other guns were Colt 38 Supers.
And that's because they can't have military calibers, so they would go with the 38 Super over a 45?
Right. And in the old days, they couldn't have military caliber. Now they can.
Oh, now
technically, they can't have any guns.
Oh, okay.
But the 38 Super has always been a favorite with the Mexicans for that reason, and remains so. It's a popular cartridge with the cartels. The guns they were buying for me were embellished 38 Super Colts with engraving and gold inlay and so forth, and they were using them as kind of rewards for the top lieutenants would get these as a gift from the cartel head for doing a good job. So they wore them like
medals or badges.
Badges or weighing off.
It meant you had some clout in the organization.
Exactly. If you were wearing one of these guns, it meant that you'd done something above and beyond for them.
Now, you talked a little bit in the book about how one of the things that alerted you in the first place was they wanted to convert AR lowers to full auto because that takes some machinery. Did they try to do any other manipulations that would be technically illegal with the NFA, like short barrels? You mentioned 16-inch barrels.
Yeah, at one point in time they were buying AR-15 pistols from me and also getting the collapsible buttstock. So basically, if you took the pistol and screwed in the M4 buttstock, now you have a short barrel rifle.
Now, were they prosecuted for that manipulation to become registered?
In Operation Wide Receiver, the only prosecution, the only charges that were filed were for lying under 4473.
For that whole straw purchase thing that you cover in the book quite a bit.
Right. Okay. That's it. Very
okay. I think we're getting scolded. Okay, thanks, Mike.
All right. And here we go. No talking, faking it. Here we go. And background.
The guys and gals of GunWebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching GunWebsites.com.